Hi Fantasy Managers, welcome to FPL Team Talks. In this video we're going to go through the price reveals that came out on Sunday. If you missed the Saturday's video, go back and have a look. I'll put a link in the description below. But we're going to have a lights of the look of Chelsea, West Ham, Newcastle, Southampton, Bournemouth were all revealed today. So if you enjoyed this video, give it a like. Don't forget to subscribe because come back out more with price reveals. Then we'll have a look at a bit of a deep dive into some of the different defenders, midfielders, attackers, drafts, all that sort of good thing coming your way. I have enjoyed the way that it's been revealed, I have to say. It gives us a bit of a chance to just kind of digest some of the information as it comes our way and just pick through it a bit more in depth. In this video, I'm going to go through the prices very quickly and then just pick out one or two players from each team that I think is worth a mention about. There's lots more conversations to be had about lots more of these players, but that will come later on. This is just going to be a quick sort of overview and just brief initial thoughts about who might make the side. So, without messing around, let's go into it. The first team that we're going to jump into and have a look at is West Ham. So, they came in with Ben Rama at 6 million, which looks like quite a nice price. The minutes are obviously a worry for him. The likes of Soucek, Lanzini and Fornals, all 4 or 5.5. Soucek just playing a bit more of a deeper role these days. So, I'm not sure he's as enticing as Lanzini and Fornals. Though he did have such a great season a couple of years ago. Popular player, set pieces, always a threat. Rice at 5 million, Cresswell on set pieces as well, 5. Johnson and Kufal coming in at 4.5 each. The big headline players, and I guess the one that we're all kind of waiting for, was Jared Bowen. What was he going to come in at? 8.5 was his price. Antonio at 7.5, and then Aguerd, if that's the way you say it, West Ham's big sort of summer signing, Moroccan defender in at 5. But the one player that I will focus on, I think, in this video just for now is Jared Bowen. 8.5 million. He had such a good season last year. 38 appearances, 12 goals, 10 assists. Great XG of 0.56. At some point in our season, I'm pretty much sure everyone owned him. He was just such a good player. On the cusp and getting into the England side at the moment, it does put me off that he's got Manchester City first, I have to say. In between, that Tottenham game looks difficult as well. Forest looks like a great fixture. And their fixtures do swing quite nicely in game week 6 or 7. So I'm not saying at the moment I wouldn't go for Bowen at all this season. But to start with, that Man City fixture is very off-putting, looming large in that very first game. To say he's nailed is an understatement. He's played every single game. Great form. He'll be full of confidence coming into this season. 8.5, I do think his price is perhaps 0.5 higher than we'd liked. And there just seems like a few other better options already. Saka at 8. I mean, you've got the likes of Foden and even Mahrez, possibly with better fixtures. Diaz coming in cheaper as well. Even the likes of Coutinho. So I think for his price point, I just think at the moment there are better options. I'm going to definitely put him on the watch list. He'll be someone I'll be considering letting the season start with. Despite that Forest fixture in the second game, which looks very tasty and a game I'd like to target, Man City first up looks really tricky. I'm not saying he won't perform in that game because he did last year, but I'm not sure I'd back him to get some points in there. And 8.5 million, I just think they're better options for the start of the season. One other player I want to quickly put onto my watch list, and again, that Man City game does put me off, is Kufal at 4.5. I think we'll be scrambling around for a lot of £4.5 million players. 31 appearances, so he's pretty much nailed in that West Ham defence. Does have an attacking threat, only 6 assists, still decent. 0.13, to put that in context, I think Matty Cash was about the similar. So he's definitely within the top 30 defensive-wise in terms of attacking returns. But remember, you're not paying a premium price for him. You're only paying 4.5. So apart from a handful of games, and remember they had Europe as well to contend with, his price looks really good. He does have an attacking threat. Clean sheets is a worry for me though. So for Kufal, I do like him maybe for later on 6 and 7 going onwards. Start of the season, not sure, but he's definitely going to be one that I'll be sitting on my watch list for now. Next up, let's have a look at Newcastle United. Interesting, Wood coming in at 6 million. He lost his place at the end of last season. Joe Linton has been downgraded, is that right? Word he's been taken from a forward to a midfielder. And it's interesting because if the likes of Wilson get injured, if he continues to be out of favour, will Joe Linton be pushed further forward? In which case he becomes a really attractive option at 6 million. Pope at 5. Willock, again, I would like to consider him. He'd be one I'll be looking at. If he wins his place back at 5 million in that Newcastle midfield as an attacking threat, he could be interesting. Trippier and Target certainly look the pick of those attacking threats from the defence. Sean Byrne coming in cheaper Again, you're not going to expect as many attacking returns, but they are pretty much nailed on, you'd say, at 4.5. The big headline is coming in from Newcastle, though. Start with St. Maximin, who was a forward last year, comes in the midfield, and now 6.5. Guimaraes at 6, and lots of stats bouncing around about the fact that he's had so many shots in and around the box. And Wilson, who's finished the season so strongly, if he stays fit, 7.5 could be a real steal and on pens. One player I think that I'd pick from this side that would stand out for me is St. Maximin. Last season, he actually had 35 appearances, so he was, despite his injury histories in the past, talismanic. I mean, he's only scored 5 goals, 7 assists, and his goal involvement expected 0.35 wasn't overwhelming. 6.5 though, now down as a midfielder, and you have to remember at the start of last season how poor Newcastle were, and his stats don't actually feel that bad considering he was kind of leading the line and he was just a one-man show at one time, you feel. Those fixtures just look horrible though, apart from Forest at home on the opening day, and I would like him for that. Brighton away, City, Liverpool, even Wolves away, doesn't look attractive. But the fact he's down as a midfielder does make him an interesting proposition. So you'd say if he's fit, he's absolutely nailed in that side. I do like the price. He's down as a midfielder. I think that's good. There's always the possibility of injuries that you worry about, St. Maximin. But to be fair, pretty much he's season injury-free last season, coming back into side. Pre-season under his belt, maybe that's been harsh and we don't need to worry about that, but those fixtures do put me off as well. But St. Maximin definitely on my watch list. Next up then we had Bournemouth. Let's have a look at their prices. Some of these players will be sort of fresh and new to the Premiership, not much known about them. Kiefer Moore, we do know a bit about him. 5.5, really cheap option. I wonder whether he could be someone that would look at later on in the season. Other than that, we're kind of filled with 5.5s and 4.5. Fredericks from West Ham, Lewis, Cook, Billing, as we know, got some sort of Premiership experience. The kind of headline acts, though, I'd pick out from Bournemouth. Solanke at 6 million, really cheap, nailed on up front, had a great season last year. Travers at 4.5 and Zamora, I just don't really want to go anywhere near, especially Travers as a goalkeeper. I think there's much better options. Solanke would be the one I would look at. His last appearance in the Premiership 2 years ago, he played 32 games, a lot of them off the bench, 3 goals, 1 assist, XGI not disaster considering it was a relegated side, 0.31, much better season last year, over 20 odd goals in the Championship, so he's going to be coming in with confidence. One thing that puts me off, just look at those fixtures. Home to Villa looks like a huge game for Bournemouth because then they've got City, Arsenal, Liverpool, then Wolves away. That looks like an absolute nightmare set of fixtures to be welcomed into the Premier League. Solanke then, 6 million, looks a decent at that price point, and Yundov maybe would challenge him. But Solanke, you think that's absolutely nailed. It's a great price, looks, coming with plenty of confidence form, playing Liverpool, books, Man City, he's got some pedigree. Those fixtures enough to put me off. But if I'm looking for someone later on at 6 million to fill a slot up front, maybe Solanke could be the man to go for. Next up then we'll have a look at Southampton. I feel they're in a similar sort of boat. There wasn't much to get excited about from the Saints side. Redmond 5.5 does push forward. Again, always lacking in sort of end product with Redmond. Romo very defensive. Armstrong, if he gets a string of games, and then you've got Salasi Perraud, Bella Kopchak, new signing, Bednarek Bazunu, don't even know how to pronounce it, all defensive, and I just don't want to go near Southampton with their fixtures defensively. I'm not convinced at all. Headline act from then Ward-Prowse, obviously their captain, 6.5. Walker-Peters, England International, 4.5. Again, I don't want to go near that defence. And Che Adams, perhaps leading the line this year, big year for him, with Baruya having gone back to Chelsea, 6.5, possibly an option. I think the only one I'll consider for a few different reasons is Ward-Prowse. The fixtures, though, look horrible. Away at Tottenham, yes, they won there last year, but I don't have any confidence in that Southampton side at the moment. Leeds at home, Leicester away, Man U and Chelsea. That looks like a tough set of fixtures to start with. The one thing you're going to get from him, you know all about his set pieces. 10 goals, 5 assists. I think it's a bit of a fallacy to say he only scores from set pieces. He has got open goals, goals from open play before, and we all know about his dead ball, but my goodness, he can whip in a cross as well. XGI not too bad at 0.32. The one thing you can say is at the start of the season, when some positions and players are unsure about whether they're going to be playing, you know for 6.5 he's going to be nailed. He's on pens, all set pieces. Price 6.5, I just wonder if there's going to be better options, and the fixtures look awful. But If I've got 6.5 and I'm worried about some other players not being nailed down, maybe he gives me that security. So possibly just making it onto my watch list for now, but he's the only Southampton player I think I'll be interested in at this moment in time. Finally, let's move on to probably the headliners of the day, which was Chelsea. Mendy coming in at 5 is really interesting. As for Quetta at 5 as well, Thiago Silva, Hudson-Odoi 5.5, Jorginho on penalties 6, Pulisic only 6, which surprised me. If he gets a run in that Chelsea side, you would say 6 million. Perhaps if Sterling comes along, that does threaten his position a bit. But for 6 million, that looks really cheap. Havertz has had a position change. So he moves from a midfielder now to a striker. And he's competing alongside Werner. Not much other competition, you'd say, up front. And remember, his scoring record in the Bundesliga was absolutely phenomenal. If he can repeat anything like that for Chelsea and get a place up front, we saw flashes of him in last season. 8 million is an absolute steal. So, yes, I am interested in him. But the headliners were Mount at 8 million. And he played more minutes in that Chelsea midfield than anyone else. Reece James at 6 million and Chilwell. It was kind of expected that James would be $500,000 more than Chilwell on his performance last year, especially playing more minutes. They came in at the same time. Pretty cheap at 6 million, I have to say as well. We'll cover those in a minute. First one I have to say is Mendy. At 5 million, nailed on in that Chelsea defence with those fixtures. Looks really hard not to put him straight down in that goalkeeper slot. You're saving $500,000 on the likes of Alisson, but you are getting a premium player from a premium side in goal. Set and forget for 5 million. I don't think you can ask for much more than that. Last year, 34 appearances, 14 clean sheets, 130 points. Remember, the likes of Chilwell and Reece James weren't about last year as well. Yes, they've lost Rudiger and Christensen, but can they cope with that? We'll have to wait and see. I think he's about as nailed as you can possibly get. Start of the season, they'll want to keep track with Liverpool, Man City, so I do think they'll be constantly playing their best side. The price is fantastic, I think, and the fixtures are good. I'm not going to say he's an absolute set and forget for me, but he's very close at 5 million. I don't think the value is going to be much further away, but he does raise another question, which we'll come back to in a minute. Next one up, I've got to say Reece James, 6 million, undervalued, absolutely. As you'll see at the bottom of the screen, he's actually, for players that played 10 games last season, he is the #1 rated player for expected goal involvement at 0.46. He outbeats the likes of Trent and Robertson, and he comes in at over $1 million less. 26 appearances, 5 goals, 9 assists. On that right-hand side of defence, you'd have to say he's got that pretty much nailed. That spot's here. The price is brilliant. It's $1 million less than the likes of Cancelo as well, who he outstrips in terms of XGI. Fixtures look good. The only thing is with Chelsea, they did concede a few more goals in the last season, the likes of Liverpool and Man City. But with the likes of Chilwell back, could that possibly change? And those fixtures look really nice. I think Reece James, I'm already sold. I think he's got to come to my side. The other choice I've got to make as well is Chilwell on the other side. He did feature in a very last game last season. Other than that, he got very small figures, 7 appearances, 3 goals, 1 assist. That's still pretty impressive, even though he played 7 games. XGI 0.35, really good. I think if he played 10 games, he'd have finished something like 7 out of 10. So again, for 6 million, he looks really good value as well. I think I would favour Reece James over him, but again, left-hand side, is he possibly now? The price looks brilliant. Fixtures look fantastic. I don't think there's any downside to him whatsoever. The only problem I would have is I've got Mendy, who looks brilliant, Chilwell and James, who look fantastic as well. Do I want to triple up on that Chelsea defence? That's the question I'm going to have. They just all look such good value. It's a nice problem to have. That's all for this one. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to click like. Remember to subscribe. We'll come back more with the price reveals and plenty more content before the season starts and beyond. So hit that subscribe button. In the meantime, take care. Speak to you soon.